Hey everyone, it's Andre Luck here to share my video for this week. So, moving forward over the next couple of months, actually, I'm going to be diving into a new series around sales leadership and sales leadership development. And this comes from, having conversations with some people, some leaders across the sports sales industry, and a need and opportunity for sales growth and sales development, and then also providing support and training around that. I actually spoke to an executive at one of the major four sports leagues in their league office on the ticket sales side. And one of the stories he shared with me, along with their growth opportunities and challenges, he's like, one of the challenges we have is that mid level management and the growth and development of it. Because if you think about who's in those roles now, 3 or 4 years ago, the pandemic happened and there was tons of turnover, a lot of transition. There wasn't consistency in a lot of those departments. So as sales reps were coming up, they weren't getting the training and development that maybe a lot of us did, 10 years ago before the pandemic, everything like that. So out of necessity, some of your top sales leaders that kind of stuck with sports or maybe stayed on and was able to keep a job, they got elevated very quickly into leadership roles. Some of it was to retain them because maybe they're looking at other opportunities. Others, they were the best of what was within their team. So what he said is that next level up of leadership, that mid level management, there's an opportunity to work with some of those teams and grow and develop them, to become better leaders and managers. And also just some of the potential clients I've talked to, they've expressed interest in that, so working on developing programs and building that out, because I'm just shocked, being on the team side, and I'm speaking, kind of to myself here, of how little sports teams invest in growth and development, specifically on the leadership side. Out of the 17 years that I worked in sports, we maybe had an external trainer come in twice when it comes to leadership development. And then even on the sales training side with the reps, it's maybe like once a year that they bring people in. So, looking back, I wish I would have invested more because it is a small financial investment for the return you're going to be getting in the short term and the long term out of your team. So that's an opportunity that, I think I could provide some insight and expertise from my time working within sports, working as a sales leader. So a lot of it will be sports focused, but I think a lot of that can also apply just to general sales leadership best practices. And so what I'll do today in this video is highlight some of the different topics I'll cover over the next couple months through YouTube videos, taking clips of that, putting on LinkedIn, some posts that I'll do, of the different topics, and some of the things I'll cover on each of those different sections. So to kick it off, the first thing I'll talk through is around creating a winning sales culture. And really from that, there's some challenges that come while you're looking to do that. You're trying to build consistency, you're trying to build processes that are sustainable over time, because you're going to have a lot of turnover and transition with your team, especially in leadership. When I first became a vice president, the leadership team that I had, within 2 years, they completely turned over to different roles, higher level positions. So I had to then refill that whole team. So really looking to build that consistency across your department, even as the transitions happen within your team on the leadership team specifically, so that next level up could then follow up and then be that next level leader for you. The other thing, when you're looking to create a culture, you want one that's competitive, but yet also, a lot of team players as well. So that is a collaborative culture. And that's a tough balance to strike sometimes because, you want people to be competing, but also rooting for their competition. So finding a way to get the right type of people, getting that culture created so that you can have that balance that you're looking for. And then always evolving with just the changing landscape and dynamics that come with sales, and specifically in sports. Market conditions could change, whether it's economical or, performance on the field or on the court with the sports team. Maybe you expected or you won championships in the past. Now your team's going through a rebuild or an ownership change, and like, how do you flex depending on that, or where you're at in your growth stage, or as you take the next level to another growth stage. Like, there's one team I'm talking to, like, we haven't been good for a long time, and we need to train our team and have the mindset, because our team's winning now and in the playoffs. Like, we need to take a different mindset and approach to how we tackle everything and approach things day to day. So first topic will be around creating a winning sales culture. And then the next one, we'll talk about recruiting and retaining high performers. I love the recruiting process. Like that was always fun for me, whether it was externally going out to different colleges and talking and speaking with students about getting into sports and looking to recruit. Like some of my best hires are people that are like, oh, I don't want to be in sales. And then we have a conversation, we talk through what that's like, bring them on, train, develop them, and they've created and lasted long within created careers in sales and have long careers within sports sales, which is always fun and rewarding. But how do you recruit? How do you get the best people? And not only just get them, how do you retain them? Once you bring them in, train, develop them, and elevate them into higher level roles within your organization. Like one of the most rewarding things for me was seeing people when they first started in college get into a role, their first role within sports, and then elevate now, where a lot of them are directors, senior directors, some are even vice presidents. And it's just cool to see that path and that transition as they've grown and evolved throughout their career. So that's a big part of building that sustainable winning sales culture, is making sure you're getting the right people. The next topic that I'll cover in a future video is going to be around running effective meetings. I love meetings. I love getting everyone together and just the process of collaborating, but some people hated them. So some of my teams probably hated all the meetings that I had, but want to make sure that those meetings are productive, make sure that there's actionable takeaways, that people are getting something out of it, and the different types of meeting as a manager or a leader that you're going to run. You're going to run one-on-ones with your team. You're going to run one-on-ones with, if you have managers underneath you, you're going to run deal review meetings. That was something that I had to continue to grow and get better at. So it was productive, and we're getting actionable insights and action items out of our team so that they can take the next step towards a close. But then also the one-on-one meeting is different than running a full team meeting. You got a team of staff of 20, 30 people dozing off in the back, some people listening to some of the things you're saying, some people just waiting for the meeting to be over and just counting down the time. But how do you make that impactful where you hit on things from a holistic, high level perspective and make sure that that message resonates, and then trickling down that communication to the different managers and then their teams underneath them, so that communication is big, and running effective meetings so that the message gets across. Another topic we'll talk through is having difficult conversations. And potentially, if you get to the point where you have to eventually let someone go, like that was something that, as a first time manager, I really had to learn, because I'm a rule follower. So, as a rep, if my manager asked me to do something once, he didn't have to ask me to do it twice. Like I would do it. And I always worked hard and, performed well enough that I was never in those conversations where someone had to come down on me for my performance or my actions or my behavior. So for me, it was great because, I was the person that, exemplified what it was supposed to look like. But when I became a manager and I had to have those conversations, I didn't know what those conversations were like. I was never in them. I never had them. And, I want to make sure people feel comfortable and they're inspired. And sometimes the best thing for people is telling them what they don't want to hear, but what they need to hear. So having that difficult conversation, or helping someone realize that the role that they're in right now is not what's best for them. So how do you help them transition and find what's best for them? Or ultimately, if it gets to the point where you have to make that tough decision to eventually let someone go, how do you prep them, or at least give them the opportunities to get things on track before it gets to that point? And then ultimately, like, how do you handle that with care and all the emotions that come with eventually having to part ways with someone that's on your team? So that'll be a topic. The next one that I'll cover is around time management as a leader, because you're just pulled in so many different directions. I talked about all the meetings. I used to always joke, like, I'm in meetings so much, like, when do you actually have time to action on the different things we talk about in all these meetings? So that's one piece of it. But as you move up from a manager to a director to a vice president, even further up, your role changes. It's not like you have more free time in any of those. You're always busy. That was one of the things you had to learn as a sales rep. It was always nice because you kind of controlled your day. You come in at 9, you leave at 5, and you're kind of done. Whereas a manager, you can have your plan and like your day planned out and mapped out, but you're dependent on so many other things, whether it's stuff coming down from your leadership or your team and it being of service to them, something coming up that was unexpected, or an issue that you have to resolve. Like your day, you just had to learn that you weren't going to get everything on your checklist, because I'm someone that likes to check things off. You're not going to get everything finished. You're not going to have your email inbox completely cleaned every single day, and just being okay with it. But where do you put your time now as a manager versus as a director? When you're a manager, you're probably more in the weeds, working with the team, more actively involved in the sales process. As a director, you still want to have visibility and be close to that, but also starting to look more strategically on how, you're building out your strategy across your department. And then as a vice president, still highly engaged in what's going on your team through probably your managers and directors, but then also talking across to the other vice presidents and above you at the executive level, and like where are you placing your time and managing your time accordingly so that you're being most effective. The next topic we'll talk through is there's a phrase you hear a lot around inspecting what you expect as a leader. And that's really, you have expectations, and how are you making sure those things are being followed through, and balancing that with micromanaging. No one likes a micromanager. Some people, that's their on position and they are like really in the weeds. And, you have to know that if that's your manager and that's their management style, you got to be okay with that. But for me, I was definitely more, give people autonomy and freedom to kind of build and create, what's going to work best for them. And a lot of people thrive in that because they knew that they had my trust until they lost it. But also some people struggled. There were some people, as I look back to my career, I definitely should have been, definitely closer on and harder on as it relates to like what's going on in their day to day, and more active, I guess is the best way to say it, in their growth and development, where some people I could be a little more hands off and give more autonomy to and everything like that. So we'll talk through what that looks like and some opportunities there. And then the last thing will be around leadership development programs. So um, I had a lot of conversations with reps over the years about the effectiveness, or maybe like the lack of effectiveness of leadership development programs. I think if done right, it's a great opportunity for, that salesperson who's looking to eventually get into management or even leadership to get some hands-on skills and get, behind the curtains look of what it looks like to be a leader. The challenge I had sometimes was, I think a lot of times it was for show. A lot of times it was for people to have something to put on their resume, which that's great. Like you can look back and you can go into an interview and say, here's all the things I've done to help me become a better leader. Never wanted to stop anyone from that. But I also didn't want to have to formalize the process to do it. If you're a leader, let's just get you involved in leading. And then, we have this program for these 3 to 5 people. What about the other 25, 30 people on your team that still need to grow as professionals, and some even as leaders as well? So I was always more curious and interested, like how do we holistically grow everyone as a leader? And those that, take the initiative, how do we invest more time into them? And if it does end up being a formalized program, great. But I definitely wanted to have people take the initiative there. But we'll talk through leadership development programs, management and training programs. I know some do it really well. So the effectiveness and some of the pitfalls that can come with that if not done right. So we'll have a topic on that as well. And then to wrap up here, I want to leave you guys with some takeaways and some content that you can check out if you're looking to be a better sales leader. This is in sports, out of sports, some 3 podcasts that I listen to and 3 books that I've read. So the first podcast is the Revenue Leadership Podcast. It's put on by a guy by the name of Kyle Norton. He's a CRO. He puts a lot of, or Chief Revenue Officer. He interviews a lot of people within the tech and SaaS industry, but they do a really good job when it comes to revenue growth, sales leadership, sales development. So a lot of that is applicable and something I've studied a lot over the past few years on things that we could take from those industries and bring to the sports industry to help us be more productive and efficient. So that's a good one. It's called the Revenue Leadership Podcast. If you're in sports, you've definitely heard of 52 Weeks of Hustle. So Travis Apple, he interviews different sports sales leaders, well, just sports leaders. Some are in sales, some are in like strategy and business analytics, some ticket operations, but really talks about their journey from when they started their career to where they are now, usually a VP, SVP, C-level executive. And one of the questions I like that he asks is, what advice would you give someone who's looking to be in your shoes one day? So if you're, let's say, a rep right now who's like, right, I want to be a SVP of ticket sales and service one day, or I want to be a chief revenue officer, you're getting tangible insights that someone would say and give themselves of advice when they start in their career to how to get to that spot. So I think he does a great job bringing on different leaders every single week and leveraging that podcast. Another one that started listening to recently is called 30 Minutes to President's Club. And a lot of their content's more focused on sales people and sales growth and development, but they also do on a weekly basis a sales leadership show. And they dive in specifically to topics around sales leadership. So VPs of sales, C-level executives, things that they do to run an effective sales organization and how they lead, grow, and develop their sales team. So those are three good podcasts to listen to, three good books that I've read as it relates to sales leadership and growth and development. The first one for me is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. That one for me, the first time I read it, I was wowed. I was like, first when I read the title, I'm like, man, this seems like it's going to be so boring, but it's very tangible, practical, actionable items that you can take as a leader just to get better. Actually, printed out the different 21 laws, and every morning when I came into my office, I would look on my desk and I would read, the next law for that day, just to kind of get my mind going as a sales leader. So that's a good book to read. Another one I read early in my leadership and management career was Monday Morning Mentoring. I actually read it as a rep when I was starting to get more involved with mentorship and development with other members of the team. That's a good one where it's very practical for a young leader, someone who's not maybe a manager yet, but looking to step into that role, of what to do in certain situations and how to prepare yourself for that first leadership, first management role. The last one is a book called Drive, where by Daniel Pink, it talks about the intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and the benefits that come from giving someone intrinsic motivation, so autonomy, mastery, and purpose within their role, to be intrinsically motivated to do their job, versus external rewards and what the pitfalls and challenges that can come with extrinsically motivating somebody. So those are all three good books, three good podcasts that you could read. But I'm excited to dive into this. Like, leadership is something that I've always enjoyed studying and getting involved with, and being able to grow and develop people. I always felt that was some of my calling or my purpose. So as you see these videos, as you see me put clips of these on LinkedIn, write different posts on LinkedIn, would love to get your feedback. If there's certain topics that you think you want me to cover, or advice you have, would love to work that into this program over the next couple of months. But as always, appreciate the time, appreciate you guys tuning in, would love to hear your feedback, and excited to get started next week with the first video.